And welcome back to Houston Newsmakers, where I'm joined by Kyle Shelton, the Director of Strategic Partnerships for the Kinder Institute for Urban Research. Thank you for joining me, by the way.
Thanks for having me on.
I am fascinated by this report. It's called Taking Stock, Housing Trends in the Houston Area. What stood out for you in that report?
Well, there's a number of things that are really interesting. One of the things that I think anecdotally a lot of Houstonians have been noticing over the last decade or so is a great amount of development sort of inside Loop 610 and this idea of people coming back into town. And that's something that we are seeing in this report, which looks at just residential building stock. So the type and age of housing units in the city.
One of the things I saw, it said, the report said Houston grew by 730,000 people between 2006 and 2015, and that growth is putting pressure on housing in the region. I can't imagine it's not, and we're not going to stop growing either. What kinds of things from this report can kind of help figure out how to chart the future?
Well, so there's a number of interesting things that come out there in thinking about the range of people who are coming, right? In that 700,000 people number, and in the future, hundreds of thousands of people who come, they're going to be people with a variety of income levels, a variety of housing type needs. And so we're going to really have to work through as a region what options do we need, right? Is single family detached going to be the solution for everybody, or is that the housing unit that everybody wants? Do we need different types of multifamily? Do we need different options for where those are located? One of the things that we are seeing with this report, for example, is that a lot of the infill development, the building that is happening kind of in the loop and just outside the loop, are often higher market multifamily apartments, attached homes, which are often townhomes, or higher priced single family detached homes, and that doesn't work for all of the Houstonians, and that doesn't give options for
And I noticed one of the things that the report did too, it looked at some of the densest areas of Houston. The southwestern part is one of those areas where it talked about 93% of the housing had been multifamily properties. Montrose also had a similar density, but a different kind of breakdown in that area.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing to look at in Houston. So we have a reputation for being very low density, very sprawled, and there's a lot of truth to that, right? But one of the things we wanted to highlight is in communities like Gulfton, Midwest, Montrose, and Pecan Park, there's actually a pretty high people per square mile density, and often really comparable to some of what we think of as East Coast, really rather dense cities, right? So in particular, I'd highlight the comparison between Montrose and Pecan Park, which are two very different neighborhoods demographically, income level, and also in their built environment. And that's really what we dig into here. You have Montrose, which is kind of the poster child for urbanism in Houston, right? A mix of multifamily, old single-family homes, some townhomes, some small duplexes and quadplexes from 1940, and Pecan Park, which has almost the exact same density, is a much higher percentage of just single-family homes. So there's a variety of densities in Houston.
And can you tell the way that's the best way to go forward, or is that kind of challenging to figure out which way is the best way?
Yeah, we can't draw that from this report, but the goal of this report is to say, look, there's a lot of ways for us to achieve density, and there's not necessarily a single silver bullet of this is what Houston will look like, or these what our neighborhoods will look like, but the existing dense communities kind of offer us a model to say, okay, what are some of the challenges that Gulfton is facing, not just from a building stock perspective, but sort of how people live in that community, what quality of life concerns there are, how are they similar or different in a place like Montrose, and then as we think about communities that are changing, so for example, Midtown, which is becoming more and more multifamily centric, what are some things that Midtown can learn from the experiences of Gulfton or the experience of Midwest?
Many people in older neighborhoods, single family, for example, concerned about gentrification. Does this report address any of that?
So what this report does a really nice job of painting a picture of is sort of alternative ways of seeing that pressure happening, right? So it really just looks at the building unit itself, and we're not getting into the sociodemographic questions or the economic questions in depth. But I think what it does is provide a really interesting point of entry into that conversation. So you can see sort of, here are where there's a great collection of older homes or older multifamily units.
So is the socio-demographic part, is that the next report?
That's the goal, yeah, is to be able to look into it even more and say, okay, if what we know anecdotally is that there's a lot of conversation about townhomes displacing former residents in some communities, is that actually borne out in the data that we're seeing? Is there actually a connection between, here's the transition from, you know, older single-family detached in communities like the 3rd Ward or the 5th Ward or the East End, is that actually also leading to a really transformative change in the population? Well,
it's fascinating, and everyone can get something from this. I think just knowledge-wise, if somebody is thinking about moving someplace in the area, that's a good thing too. It's called Taking Stock: Housing Trends in the Houston Area. You can get it on the Kinder Institute website, or on my page on click2houston.com. It'll be there on the Newsmakers page. We'll make sure you get all of that information. Kyle Shelton, thank you for coming in. Appreciate all the work that you do. And we'll be there in another week or so when the Houston area survey, the latest one, comes out. Always a great time of the year. Yeah. Celebration. It's a good time. Thank you very much. Final thoughts and a look ahead to next week right after this.